It is people like the Mizrahis who Israel's national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, wants to get more guns to so they can protect themselves. And there are voices in Israel saying that ultra-Orthodox communities need to be better armed for their own protection. But people taking security into their own hands is also being increasingly seen in the occupied West Bank. Adds that there is already rising gun violence in Israel, correlated with a rising number of licenses, and the victims of which are principally Palestinian citizens, and a high proportion of women, both Jewish and Palestinian. Don't forget to subscribe to BNC News for more updates. Shimon Mizrahi points from his apartment balcony out to a large two-lane road. On the other side is a synagogue, where children are playing. He points to where outside the synagogue a Palestinian gunman killed his son and daughter-in-law, Eli and Natalie Mizrahi, after they had gone downstairs on hearing gunshots. Another 5 people died in the January attack, making it the deadliest of its kind for years. Such events have added to a perception among some Israelis that the authorities are not protecting them. I blame the Prime Minister. He's in charge of the army, security. I blame them, Shimon Mizrahi says. It is people like the Mizrahis who Israel's national security minister, Itamar Ben-Gvir, wants to get more guns to so they can protect themselves. Mr. Ben-Gvir gained his Otzma Yehudit party a place in Israel's right-wing ruling coalition in November's parliamentary election by criticizing the previous government's security record and making strong-arm promises. These included arming army reservists and relaxing open-fire rules. And violence between Palestinians and Israelis has been escalating since the first half of last year. Palestinians have committed deadly attacks in Israeli cities, and Israel's army has carried out consistent nightly raids in the occupied West Bank. Last year saw Israeli security forces kill the most Palestinians since 2005. This year the violence has continued. Police arrived at the Neve attack several minutes after the shooting began, and killed the assailant as he tried to flee. Following the January attack, Mr. Ben-Gvir pledged to drastically speed up the issuing of gun permits, from around 2,000 to 10,000 a month, reducing the waiting time from 6 to 8 months to 2 or 3. Israeli gun ownership is low at about 2% of the population. It compares to about 30% of the population owning a gun in the U.S. Usually citizens are allowed to hold a pistol and a limit of 50 bullets. I will be able to protect myself and those around me, Mr. Valman says. Mr. Valman, 27, is an observant Jew and lives in the northern West Bank settlement Kohav HaShehar. He needs to maintain a certain skill level and pass physical and mental health tests to keep his gun license, part of Israel's strict regulations on owning guns. Mr. Valman did military service and got a gun after leaving. And there are voices in Israel saying that ultra-Orthodox communities need to be better armed for their own protection. But people taking security into their own hands is also being increasingly seen in the occupied West Bank. In the West Bank, unarmed self-defense groups and public committees are organizing the defense of villages and towns where Palestinian Authority forces are absent, often due to not having the necessary Israeli army coordination to operate. These civilians fear attacks by Jewish settlers, after successive examples in recent months. New, youthful militias have emerged, becoming the latest wave of what Palestinians consider resistance to the Israeli occupation. Rolam Azali, the co-founder of the Israeli anti-gun activist coalition Gun-Free Kitchen Tables, says there is no evidence that having more guns in civilians' hands thwarts attacks or reduces the number of victims. It is claimed and claimed again, and it's claimed so often that it's widely believed to be the truth. But there are really no supporting statistics. And Ms. Mazali says, rather, more guns have led to more murders. She adds that there is already rising gun violence in Israel, correlated with a rising number of licenses, and the victims of which are principally Palestinian citizens, and a high proportion of women, both Jewish and Palestinian. As Israel is convulsed by ongoing protests against the far-right government, primarily due to its proposed judicial changes, and with ongoing Israeli-Palestinian violence, there currently appears little room for compromise or any such appeasement. Don't forget to subscribe to BNC News for more updates.